Hey guys, Rilhon here and welcome back to another Olympic update video. Today we're going to go through my latest progress, which includes the full completion of E-Deck. And we are basically going to do a tour today. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting in the very prow of the ship, as you can see here, we have a store space which was used by the crew to store various equipment and things. If we move aft, we get to the trimmers space where they lived on the ship, basically. There were 3 of these, so there's one room here. Going down this corridor, we get to another one here. And we also get one on the other side of the hatch here, the number 1 hatch. We get another one here. And this was connected to these 2 spiral staircases. You went this one up and this one down. And we also have fireman's wash place here and fireman's lavatory here, which is strange considering that there's only trimmers on this deck, but the firemen have their wash place here. Perhaps they use the same one, who knows? I don't. If we move aft, we no clip through the wall here, we get to some 3rd class spaces. We have cabin number 6 here for example, just showing it because these all look pretty much the same. So yeah, there's a couple of beds, some hooks, and yeah, some baggage. Not much left to speak of. We have a staircase here that leads up to the open space on D-Deck. We have more cabins in that hallway, as well as a lavatory for the men. And here we have another cabin in there, and this is the number 2 hatch. If we move aft, we get to the number 3 hatch, or the bunker hatch, as well as some additional cabins here. We have another men's lavatory here. The reason they have 2 is because the men were usually located in the forward part of the ship, while the women and families were at the stern. 3rd class was both in the stern and the bow, basically. We have an additional cabin here, and on this side here we have a bar for 3rd class, as well as a pantry over here. This room was actually changed on Titanic to the Master at Arms cabin, while on Olympic it was located here, and it was quite a bit larger. If we move aft, we get to the Scotland Road, which is the main crew companionway, but it was also used by 3rd class. Here is 3rd class section B, or yes, section B. This entire space is section B. The 3rd class cabins were separated into sections rather than deck numbers. So this would be B11 basically, or section B, cabin 11. So yeah, these cabins were all the same as well, so let's skip those. There were a couple of cabins in there basically. We have a staircase here that would lead down to section G, and here is the main companionway here, Scotland Road. We have some escape ladders from the tank top, and yeah, put on some night vision, because despite it would have been quite realistic that it was quite dark, I want you guys to be able to see a little bit better. So, we have quartermasters, carpenter and joiner, boatswain and mate in these 3 cabins here. These were all kind of basic. They were roughly decorated the same way as 2nd class. Some of the better crew cabins on the ship, while the worst ones were roughly 3rd class level, basically. We have a lavatory here for the petty officers. Here is a escape door from the number 6 boiler room. Yes, you could also go up all the way to the boat deck, basically. Moving aft here, we have stairs that leads down to the linen cleaning room. We have a steward's lavatory in here. Another escape hatch, this time from the number 5 boiler room. Plate washers and scullions. This is basically how the crew dormitories looked. Very simple. But yes, I suppose they would have worked, but it wouldn't have been very comfortable, I can't imagine. Drying room, not much to say about that. Second class stewards. There were a lot of stewards for both first and second class. And more second class stewards in here. Here's a staircase that leads up to D deck, to the first class entrance hallways. This was mainly used for third class, or would have been used if they hadn't removed it on Olympic in 1913 and on Titanic. It was never even introduced, so yes, that hallway was there for like a year or two and then they removed it. We have a lot more dormitories here. Stateroom stewards, pantry and deck stewards, library and boot stewards. Here is the emergency exit for first class. We will check that out later. We have stewards lavatory in here, as well as saloon waiters. There are also a lot of waiters on the ship. We have a emergency escape for the number 4 boiler hatch. Over here we have a stairs to cook and stewards leading down into some more dormitories on F deck. Moving aft, we have another one for number 3 boiler room. We have more saloon waiters here. We have even more saloon waiters, quite a lot. We have a drawing room. Here are the 2 staircases leading down into the third class dining saloon. So we have one here and one here. They were separated by a watertight bulkhead, which isn't gonna do much when the water can just flow over top. So that's a design flaw right there. In here we have a ash place, which I'm not done with actually. I will save these rooms for when I get to the boiler rooms, so I can, finish them all at the same time, because they were connected to them in a way like this, going down into the boiler rooms and the coal bunkers. We have a fat tank room, which is nice, very cool. Bath and lavatory stewards, pantry stalkers, boots and bugler and gym attendants. In here, locker, drying room. We have a first class stewards space and first class cooks. We have a number 2 boiler casing and stewards lavatory. We have superior stewards lavatory, and we have some superior stewards in here. Number 1 boiler casing, the smallest boiler room of them all. And here we get to kind of a crossroads. So here is the engineers and storekeepers, and engineers and stewards. And here is an emergency exit, which we'll get to later. We have a barkeeper and storekeepers, and chief baker and assistant chef. And finally, chef. Just chef. Yeah, that is main part of Scotland Road. If we move aft, we get to some more cabins here. We have butcher and second baker, confectioner and second baker, second stewards, and chief storekeeper. So these were all decorated roughly in the style of second class, basically. If we go aft here, we have the engineers mess here. It was similar to the maids and valet's saloon on C deck. Kind of basic decor, but fairly nice. We have a pantry here adjacent to it, and there's even a hoist that leads up to D deck in the galley. Further aft, we have a staircase that leads down to engineers' quarters, which I haven't built yet, but I will get to soon. We also have an engineer's office in here, and this is also an entrance way for the crew. We have a watertight door here. as well as an entrance to the reciprocating engine room. Going through this door here, we get to some more spaces here. Restaurant cooks in here, and tray and sauce cooks. I can't pronounce that word, but yeah, restaurant crew basically. We have a entrance here to the turbine engine room, and we have a leading cook's VC and a waiter's lavatory. This was basically a toilet in here. This is a hallway over here, which is interesting. It leads down on the other side of the engine room to more engineering crew spaces. You can see here. Kind of an odd staircase, it was sort of built to the side. Yeah, very odd, but it worked, so that's nice. We have some more spaces here. Scullery man and pantry man. Head waiter. Chef. Barkeeper and controller. And a fan locker for all the rooms on the ship that needed fans for ventilation. And we have waiters. Musicians and page boy. There were 5 musicians in this cabin, and there were more further aft in the second class spaces. There's an instrument locker in here. Emergency exit, this leads to second class areas. And finally we have the third class and crew entranceway here, the aft one. We have a potato wash place in here. And I put the famous potato room in here, which contained, as you would imagine, potatoes. We also have a hoist that leads up into the galley. And we have a staircase as well, leading up into the galley and one leading down into the food stores. Now we will go back to the very front, not the very front, but to the beginning of the Scotland Road. And we will go to the other side, to the first class areas. So this was the lowest deck on the ship where first class had cabins. There were quite a lot of them on this deck. We can begin here at the very front. We have E1, which is one of the smaller ones on the deck. 1 bed and 1 you can fold down, so 2 people could live in this one. This is a larger one. This is a baby cabin for, I believe, 3 people at most. So 2 beds plus 1 foldable. And the baby cabin is hence this corridor here. The cabin gets some light and fresh air if needed. And yeah, this could connect to this one here, so they could form a suite, or if there was a traveling party, you could connect the 2 cabins together. And this cabin basically, is situated around this smaller cabin here, which also had room for 3 people. So that is basically how all of them looked, all the way over there. I can show you here. We have a staircase that leads to D deck, and we also have a staircase that leads down to E deck and F deck to the squash court here, but I've shown this before. Built it a long time ago now. We also have some cabins here, which were a little bit unique. These were exclusively first class. What this means is that the other cabins I showed you before, these ones here, could actually be turned into second class cabins if second class was overbooked. So they would have one of those gates here. They would put them up and close them, so first class could only go here and access these cabins, but they couldn't access these ones if that was the configuration that the ship was in at the time. So all the way down here were alternate cabins, so these were mainly first class, but they could be turned into second class if needed. We have some baths here for gentlemen. We have the lavatory in here. Let's head aft. We have some small inside cabins here as well for just 1 person. these all look the same. There's no point in showing any more of these cabins because I've already shown you. Oops, that's not how it's supposed to be. There we go. We have a ladies' lavatory in here with some baths. And here we get to the elevators. The lowest deck that they would go down to. We have a water fountain here, which is nice. I believe this is the cabin of Molly Brown. So that's interesting detail. We at least believe it is because she said that when after the iceberg collisions she looked outside her door and she saw two men doing something like over here, and it turns out that they were working to close the watertight doors, which they would have done through this deck plate here. They would be on the deck above, screwing it this one shut, basically. So that's how those worked. And that was basically the only cabin that she would basically have seen that happen, or one of the only ones at least. We have some more cabins here. And the grand staircase here, of course, leads down to F deck and up to boat deck. And moving aft here, we have a pantry and a service closet. And yeah, basically more cabins. Cabins upon cabins upon cabins. Now it's after a certain point, I believe it's here, yes. They would put up a wall around here where they could separate first and second class. Basically, they had almost full control over exactly where they needed to separate the two classes depending on how many had booked in each class. So they could allocate this entire space to first and second if they needed to. Or if they needed more first class, they could just have it over here. They could go over here and they would put up a wall. And second class would be from this point. And what made this unique from this point is that they were pretty much looked the same as second class, but they had a red carpet instead, which differentiates them from the other second class cabins, which were decorated with linoleum, but these had carpet instead. So these were also big cabins. As you can see, they had the two beds, bunk bed, and you could also change this sofa. Change this sofa into one bed there and one bed there too. Yeah, it's very clever contraption. We also have the same situation here, but a little bit smaller cabin. Moving further aft here, we get to some lavatories. This was for the gentlemen. Some more baths. It's gonna go further aft. We have a ladies' lavatory. Then we get to here, this space. We have a pantry and Scotland Road. And also this staircase that leads up to D deck, the galley. So the stewards and pantrymen could easily restock this pantry here. Okay. More cabins here. This was a kind of small one. If we move further aft, we get to another space where the stewards could separate the spaces depending on how many had booked in each class. This was most often used for second class though, but they could be turned into first class if needed. And we have a ladies' lavatory in here, some baths, and some smaller cabins here, alternate cabins, and in here. Going all the way over here, we also have an emergency escape from the engine room. We have some inside cabins here. These were kind of large. These are probably the largest second class cabins, or one of the largest ones. And we still have alternate cabins here leading all the way to this point. After this point, this was only second class. It could not be converted to first class. So that was that space. Very interesting kind of space. If we move out here, we have a staircase leading down to F-deck second class cabins, and good lord, this is going to take so much time to finish. So many cabins. Here is the barbershop, the second class barbershop, which is almost identical to the first class one, except some differences, but there weren't many. Over here is the another gentleman's lavatory with some bathrooms, and another emergency exit here to the Scotland Road. If we go through here, we have some cabins which were only second class again. Chief second class steward in this cabin here, which also had a kind of a window that would open. I have a desk here, and this is the forward second class staircase, which could go all the way up to boat deck here. Let's go down again. Here. And I also had an elevator, which is nice, and I haven't finished this part here, so just ignore that. And this is their entrance, by the way, as well. E-deck entrance. We could also board from the other side if needed. You see here. Second class area here. There are cabins, again exclusively to second class. Gentleman's lavatory and bathrooms in here. And yeah, more cabins upon cabins upon cabins. We have a stewardess's cabin in here, but this would have been very similar in decoration to second class cabins. Here's the aft staircase for second class, and this is the purser's office for second class. This was managed by the assistant purser, sorry. And yeah, they could also peek their head out here, I suppose, if the third class passengers needed to inquire about something. I suppose they could help them here. He also slept here. Further aft here, more cabins. We have a ladies' lavatory and a bath. And yeah, we also have the remaining musicians will sleep in here. And we have some purser clerks. Let's go through this space here. We will go back here. We end up in third class section K. We have two large lavatories here, one for men, one for women. And we have some third class cabins here. These were different from the ones in the bow in one way, and that is that they had a wash basin, which was not, they didn't have running water. The stewards would fill these daily, basically. Then we have a locker here, not much to speak about. Here's a interesting space. This is the number 4 cargo hatches, and this was where they loaded the food, the provisions. So they could load them from up here, but they could also load them from the side here, which is very interesting. This was also the case on the other side, if we move through here. Okay, moving further aft here, we have a staircase leads down to section N. This was an alternative space again. This could be converted from second to third class if needed. Here is section M, this entire space here. So basically within each watertight bulkhead was a third class section. That's basically how it worked. We have some more cabins here. They all look pretty much the same. Let's just go on. Interpreter and second class steward. And another section here. This is section Q. Single cabin in here and more over on this side. Here we get to the third class main staircase. This leads up to C deck up here, and it leads down all the way to G deck here, which I haven't built yet. So yeah, this had a pantry adjacent to it, as well as some more cabins on the other side, almost mirrored but a little bit different from that side. We have a matron's cabin. RIP. Gotta love the server restarting in the middle of a tour. Very nice. Anyway, we have a chief third class steward here in this space. And yeah, basically some more cabins here towards the very end of the ship. And finally we have a store space, which I haven't actually finished, so I lied. I'm sorry, I lied. I haven't finished E-deck. Oh no. Anyway, oh yeah, this was an emergency escape from the tank top, basically. It's up to here, to C-deck. Yeah, that's basically E-deck as a whole in its entirety. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and yeah, I will see you next time. Bye bye.